Good evening, you're watching TKC Daily, where we make sense of the global events with straight facts and sharp analysis. Tonight on the show, we begin with the bloodbath in the stock markets. Trillions and trillions of dollars have been wiped out of the market across the world, triggered by Trump tariffs. Investors are already calling it a Black Monday. What it means for the world, and what is President Donald Trump's secret strategy? We will tell you all about this. Meanwhile, in the United States, millions and millions of people are protesting against Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Why are Americans saying, "Hands off America"? And to break this down, I will be joined by a special guest from New York. This is something that you cannot miss. Russia's new war on Europe is happening, and believe me, it's not on land, not in the air, but deep underwater. What is Putin really planning? We will tell you everything that you need to know. Then why is Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu suddenly rushing to meet Donald Trump? What's going on behind the scenes? We will tell you. And finally, are you ruining your sleep just by scrolling your phone for an extra hour at night? A shocking new report says yes, and the numbers will surprise you. All this is lined up. Let's begin. What a day this has been. Literally every stock market in the world is bleeding red today. Asian markets, European markets, American markets. Name any. Not a single stock exchange is in green. In fact, I could barely spot any green stock in my portfolio today. It's been an absolute bloodbath. A day that is already being called as a Black Monday in the financial world. So what exactly happened that triggered this global sell-off? The trigger is a single word: tariffs. US President Donald Trump has announced sweeping tariffs on all the imports into the United States, a flat 10% tariff on all the goods entering the US, and even steeper tariffs on 60 countries that Trump has labeled, and I quote, as the worst offenders in the trade practices. These new tariffs are the most aggressive protectionist measures taken by any US president in decades. And Trump is defending his move by saying, and I quote, "Sometimes you have to take medicine to fix something." This is what he said. But here's the thing. What if the patient is allergic to that medicine? What if the doctor misdiagnosed the problem? And that's exactly what seems to be happening here. The world economy is allergic to entire free trade global practices. Global trade is the backbone of the world's economy today. Supply chains are deeply integrated. Tariffs disrupt those chains. They increase the cost of doing business, raise prices for customers, and ultimately slow down the global growth. Markets have reacted. Japanese market crashed by 7.8%. Hong Kong's market lost over 12%. In the US, the S&P 500 fell by nearly 6% in a single day, its worst performance since the 2020 pandemic crash. Saudi Arabia's stock exchange fell by 7% on Sunday itself, and the European markets, they're following the same pattern. JP Morgan now estimates a 60% chances of a global recession triggered by these tariffs. And to be honest, that fear is not baseless. So where do we go from here? I would say brace yourself for more uncertainty. This move by Trump is not just about tariff. It's a bigger strategy. It's a part of a larger game. You see, Trump is a negotiator. He creates leverage by creating chaos. His idea is simple: force countries to come to the negotiating table and offer trade concessions to the US. And already reports suggest that over 50 countries have reached out to the US administration to negotiate lower tariffs or other trade barriers. And knowing Trump's style, these tariffs might just be a temporary move, a bargaining chip in the larger trade negotiations. But till that happens, expect more volatility in the markets, more ups and downs, more fear, more panic. Remember, markets hate uncertainty, and right now there is plenty of that going around. And my personal view is that eventually these tariffs will be rolled back or softened as trade deals are renegotiated. This is classic Trump strategy: shock first, negotiate later. But till then, stay cautious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay calm. Because in times like these, patience is the best investment. On April 5th, in an extraordinary display of resistance, hundreds of thousands of Americans from every single state flooded the streets in what's being called as the largest coordinated protest of Trump's second term. The reason? A growing outrage over what protesters are calling a hostile takeover of the US government led by President Donald Trump and his unlikely ally Elon Musk. The protests, backed by nearly 200 organizations cut across every section of American society, labor unions, veterans, civil rights groups, climate activists, united by a single message: stop gutting public services, stop handing over power to billionaires, and stop dismantling America's social security net. And right at the center of this storm, this chaos, is Elon Musk, whose controversial role in Trump's government and his cost cutting efficiency drive is fueling even more anger. From Washington to Los Angeles, from New York to Alaska, America has hit pause on politics and hit play on protest. But how did it come this far? And why are Americans calling this no king for USA? Tonight on the show, I'm joined by a special guest from New York, United States of America, to discuss the protests happening in the United States and the whole Trump tariff situation. Thank you very much for joining me on the show, Swardha, and a very good morning to you.
Good evening, Karan. How have you been?
I'm wonderful. How are you doing? How is Trump doing there?
Oh, the situation is really currently really heating up over here, and it's interesting now. Let's see how it really moves ahead.
So let me start with my first question. Let me start by asking you this. Since you are there witnessing these protests against President Trump, his administration, and I should add Elon Musk, I want to know, how intense are these protests? Is this anger something that you believe people will get over like the weekend hangover, or it could lead to further escalations? How do you assess this whole situation?
So the thing is, I'm not physically witnessing these protests, but with the reports that have been coming up on several local chats and on TV, I know what has been happening, but I can give you a clear picture based on what's happening as of April 6th, as of yesterday. The protest against President Trump, his administration, and Elon Musk are pretty intense. Thousands of people are hitting the roads and the streets across even smaller towns like where I live in right now in Connecticut. And they are and unfortunately, even in Europe, I do not know why people in Europe are protesting so much. Of course, they're upset over the tariffs, they're upset over the government cuts and Musk's influence. They are loudly chanting, marching, waving signs. They had literally disrupted the entire New York's Manhattan area on Saturday, that is on the 6th, and on the 5th, I think. And the protests have been growing since Trump took office in January. But I think this is the first protest that you can see that has like really people looking up. And it's also called as the hands off movement on April 5, and feels like a tipping point. It's a tipping point, I think, not a one off. And so if you ask me, could it escalate? Well, so I think yes, because with how the stock markets have really reacted for the past 2-3 days now, I think it could escalate because the Trump's tariffs, even though they, of course, he's trying to make America great again. He's trying to put America first. Definitely, of course. Why not? Why not? Why he should not do that?
Not only make America, great again, he also wants to make America wealthy again, as we were discussing.
Wealthy again,
With all
exactly. Because
trillions and trillions of dollars.
Yes. So if Trump and Musk keep pushing policies like tariffs of slashing federal programs, and if allies keep feeling burned, this could snowball. There's talk of impeachment also from some lawmakers and past protests. Like the Women's March in 2017 show this kind of energy can build into something bigger. It can build into something bigger.
You were mentioning impeachment, but do you think, is it possible, since he has majority everywhere? Do you believe impeachment is on the table?
It is on the table. It is on the table. I'll tell you why. Not this year, not next year, but there are elections coming up for the House of Representatives from in 2026. So, and again, the higher house, I think the Senate, it is called as the Senate here. So the Senate also has a rolling election schedule every 6 years. So in 2 years' time, if things build up, if the economy doesn't recover, if Trump is able to not stop the recession, then I think he's in for a big shock. He's in for a big shock.
That's a very big thing that you're saying, Swarda. The
Yeah.
situation there in United States is very tense, and I should say it is tense across the world. So now let's talk about Trump tariffs a little. Many
Yeah.
reports indicate that President Trump and his tariffs, including 10% blanket tariff and then individual tariffs on individual countries, could lead to
Mhm.
recession not only in the United States but in the entire world. Let me give you some data here, then I'll let you answer this question. With an estimated 6 trillion wiped out from the stock market in the previous week, Goldman Sachs
Oh.
increasing the recession chances to 35%, WTO estimating global trade volumes to shrink by 1%. Do you think President Trump has overplayed his hand? This is something that is getting out of his hands. What do you say?
Well, has Trump gone too far? According to me, yes and no, but could be. If other countries give in and make deals, he might win. So something very similar happened last time he was the president in 2017. And but if they fight back with their own tariffs, it could get messy, hurting exports, jobs, and everyone's wallets. Definitely. So last time I remember he had put tariffs on German-made cars, and I will kid you not. I think 30% of the cars sold here in the US are German cars, and he had put a huge tariff on German cars. The German minister that time, the German president or prime minister, Angela Merkel, she had literally flown to the US the minute she heard of these tariffs, and she had negotiated and cut it down to like 2 to 3%. And I think, yes, this is a Trump's way of negotiating. The art of the deal is what he calls after his famous book. And I think some say it's worth it to fix unfair trade and it might spark US growth later. But right now, I think it's a gamble. So Trump's tariff, I think it is a ploy. He's trying to get countries on the negotiating table. He knows that, countries are putting a huge tariffs on the US, but US has not reciprocated, and he doesn't understand why. Trump is a business, so he's going to be like profit loss. Where do I get more profit from? How does my country benefit more? So he wants countries on the negotiating table, and what best rather than to shock them, get them on the table, negotiate according to his own terms, and get some good deals for the US. He's a master deal maker. This is what I feel.
I would say he's disruptor in chief rather than commander in chief. He's disrupting everything that.
Time will tell. Time will tell. Last year he did. He tried. I mean, last time when he was president, he tried to do something very similar, and outcomes were positive. So my fingers are crossed. Let's see. Let's see.
You are saying you are optimistic and hopeful about the result of.
Yes. Yes.
Well, I believe many will not agree with you on that. But anyhow, now let's shift our focus to geopolitics from Trump tariffs. You see, President Trump has been in office for less than 100 days. And in that time, he has somewhat changed the complete geopolitical equation, the complete geopolitical situation. You see, now friends and old alliances are drifting away and the new alliances are being forged. Do you think, it's a very important question, do you think these actions will ultimately harm the United States and put its position as a global leader in jeopardy? And how will the allies be able to trust President Trump if he keeps on harming his allies and leading in such an unpredictable manner? How do you see it?
Would this hurt the US? I think at this point of time, with all the information that we have, yes, it might. If allies stop trusting Trump because he keeps hitting them with surprises like 25% tariffs on Canada or Mexico, they might turn elsewhere for leadership.
Right.
Canada's prime minister is already talking about this in his recent speeches. Maybe to China or Europe. Even Europe has been mighty unhappy, and Europe and America have been like one of the biggest, best, and the oldest allies together. And the US has been the top dog because his friends relied on it as of now. But that trust is cracking. An unpredictable leader makes it hard for allies to plan or stick together. And if they're hurting their exports and imports, then the allies are rattled. They have been rattled. They have
Right.
been rattled. On the other hand, Trump might think this shakeup forces better deals, as I mentioned before, and keeps the US strong. But if he pushes too far, the US could end up with fewer friends and less power. Then allies want a steady partner, not a wild card. The next few months will show if this gamble weakens America's global spot or somehow makes it stronger.
Hmm.
So I think time will tell. But if you ask me, my hunch or my intuition or my like the political knowledge that I've gained here in the past 2 3 years that I've been here, I think Trump will win with his slightly bullying type of tactics. He will win. He will make sure he will win.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's very, inferential. The
Yeah.
bullet one.
So I think while Trump has partnered with Musk in more ways than one, uh, Musk will have a very, what you can say, a diplomatic influence on him. He will try to like steer him in the right direction if Trump tries his tactics. So I think my bets are on Elon Musk to steer Trump in the right direction.
Well, now we are expecting Elon Musk to drive Trump on the right manner.
Hmm.
So, and there were reports that Elon Musk might exit his Doge department. Do you think if
Yes. No, so he has clarified on Twitter, on X, that is his platform, which he currently sold off. But he has clarified that these are all rumors, this is false, and nothing of this sort is happening.
Right.
But again, during his first term, a lot of his aides, supporters had left him because Trump had become very unpredictable. The way he is, a lot of people had left him last time too. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. Even Mr. Vivek Ramaswamy, he also left the Dodge thing before it even started. So, but I hope Elon stays and Elon puts his brain, his talent to make America great again.
And do you think that since Tesla sales are being hurt in Europe, especially, people are burning Tesla cars, they're setting them on fire. Do you think Elon Musk would want to stay there and keep on entangling himself in the politics?
So, very interestingly, when Elon Musk, suddenly he left the Democratic Party and teamed up with the Republicans, he had predicted way back into to 2022, I think, that, I mean, his companies will be attacked because of his political leanings. And I think he's well prepared. He's a smart cookie. He's
Smart.
well prepared to counteract these things.
All right,
Yeah.
this brings me to the last question. Although you are into the service business, which has not yet encountered Trump tariffs, I want to know as an entrepreneur, as a business person, as a businesswoman, are you feeling the shockwaves? Are you feeling the hinges of Trump tariffs?
As a businesswoman, currently I've been lucky enough that the tariffs have not even touched me. But um, but if there are I mean, I've been talking to a lot of business women in my circles who have product based businesses, so they've been really badly shocked, they've been rattled. A lot of their trade has been stopped in anticipation of these trade wars, and they're losing out on their revenues. So as a service business, nothing has touched me yet, but if I look at my friends and my colleagues who are doing different types of businesses, they've been rattled. They know that the outcome will be positive in the end and things will settle down. But as of now, there's a lot of uncertainty in their minds.
Hmm.
And
That's
the stock market's crashing isn't helping the cause at all.
Yes, with the even countries planning retaliatory tariffs. With China, I think they have put some 34% tariffs. and even Europe is saying that they are going to put some countermeasures. I think the road of trade ahead is going to be a little difficult for people, especially in the United States. And I believe all across the globe, because I think we are in a world of globalized economy where each and every economy is integrated with the other economy.
True, true. Yes.
So, right, thank you very much for your time, Swarda, and sharing your views. It's always pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Karan. Thank you.
Russia's war with Europe has quietly entered a new battlefield, beneath the sea. Forget tanks and missiles, Europe's new front line is underwater, where power cables, internet lines, and gas pipelines stretch across the ocean floors, vulnerable and largely unprotected. Since 2022, there have been at least 6 suspected attacks of sabotage in the Baltic Sea alone. And since 2023, 11 different undersea cables have been mysteriously damaged across Europe. And Western officials believe this is part of Russia's shadow war against Europe, a covert campaign of sabotage, spying, and disruption that goes far beyond Ukraine. Just recently, Russian sensors were found in British waters, likely used to spy on UK's nuclear submarines. The question is, what makes these undersea attacks so dangerous? The answer is how easy they are to carry out and how hard they are to trace. All it takes is a ship dropping its anchor and dragging it across the shallow seabed, especially in the Baltic Sea, where the average depth is just 52 meters. And if the damage happens outside the country's 12 nautical mile territorial waters, it's extremely difficult, very difficult to hold anyone accountable legally. But why is this a big deal? Because Europe relies heavily on its undersea infrastructure. For example, Norway supplies 1/3 of EU's gas through undersea pipelines. Ireland gets 10% of its electricity from underwater cables, and the Baltic countries, for example, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, rely on cables connecting them to Sweden, Finland, and Germany. And these are already signs of what disruptions could be like. Last year, Estonia's energy bill jumped 10% after a glitch in just one cable. One cable. A British military official recently told the Telegraph, and I quote, "There should be no doubt there is a war raging in the Atlantic." This underwater war is just one part of Russia's larger shadow campaign in Europe, which also includes cyber attacks, arson, election interference, disinformation, and even assassination attempts. Lithuanian officials warned that these attacks weren't random. They're a strategy, a way to quietly pressure Europe, create economic pain, and test how Russia can push without triggering a full-scale military response. Europe's undersea world, once invisible and ignored, is now a fragile front line in the new era of conflict. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu is heading to Washington for a high-stakes meeting with the US President Donald Trump. The agenda? 3 explosive issues: the war in Gaza, Iran's nuclear ambitions, and surprisingly, trade tariffs. This visit is significant for several reasons. First, Netanyahu becomes the first foreign leader to visit Washington in an attempt to negotiate directly with Trump over his new tariff policies. Just last week, Trump shocked global markets by announcing sweeping tariffs on imports, a move that has wiped out trillions and trillions of dollars, not only from the US stock markets, but from the markets across the world. Now, Israel, one of America's closest allies, finds itself caught in the crossfire. Despite sharing a 40-year-old free trade agreement with the US, Trump's new 17% tariff also applies to Israeli imports, especially machinery and medical equipment. Israel tried to avoid this by scraping its own duties on American goods, but Trump went ahead anyways, arguing that the US still runs on trade deficit with Israel. But this trip isn't just about trade. The Middle East is once again on edge with growing fears of an Israeli strike on Iran's nuclear facilities. The US has already sent advanced anti-missile systems like THAAD and Patriot batteries to Israel amid rising tensions. Netanyahu and Trump are expected to discuss what comes next if diplomacy with Iran fails, including possible military coordination and confrontation. The visit also comes after renewed violence in Gaza, raising global concerns over the humanitarian crisis there. But geopolitics aside, there is another personal reason for Netanyahu's visit: the International Criminal Court's arrest warrants against him for alleged war crimes. Netanyahu is already rallying international support to push back against the ICC. Interestingly, Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban, who hosted Netanyahu just before this trip to the US, announced that Hungary will withdraw from the ICC altogether. Trump and Netanyahu reportedly discussed this development once over a phone call the other week, and the conversation likely to set stage for the visit in Washington. As Netanyahu arrives in the US, the world will be watching closely, because what happens in the closed-door meetings could have ripple effects far beyond Israel and America. Trade, war, and diplomacy, all on the table. Be honest with me, we all have done this, lying in bed at night, scrolling on our phones, telling ourselves, just 5 more minutes. But before we know, 30 minutes, maybe even an hour has gone by. Turns out this small habit could actually be hurting our sleeps more than we realize. A new study by the Norwegian Institute of Public Health has found that spending just 1 extra hour on your phone in the bed can increase your risk of getting insomnia by 63%. Not only that, it can reduce your total sleep time by about 24 minutes on average. This study surveyed over 45,000 young adults aged 18 to 28 and found a direct link between bedtime, screen time, and poor sleep. But how exactly does scrolling your phone disturb your sleep? You see, it's not just about social media. The study found that whether you are texting, watching videos, gaming, browsing, or even reading online, any kind of screen time in bed increases your chance of poor sleep. This is because of something called as time displacement, which simply means the more time you spend on your screen, on your mobile phone, the lesser time your body gets to sleep. There's another factor too. The light from our screens, especially the blue light, it affects the production of melatonin, a hormone that signals your body that it's time to sleep. When your brain is exposed to bright light at night, it gets confused and stays alert, making it harder for you to fall asleep. Interestingly, another study published in Nature says it's not just about the blue light, but any bright light at night can mess with your body's natural sleep rhythm. Our bodies are still wired like our ancestors, programmed to rest when it's dark and stay awake when it's bright. So what can you do about it? The good news is you don't have to give up your phone entirely. Small habits like setting a screen cutoff time 30 minutes before bed, switching to night mode, using dim lights in the evening, or reading a physical book instead of on your phone can all help improve your sleep quality. In the end, it's a reminder that our nighttime scrolling may feel relaxing, but it's quietly stealing our sleep. And better sleep is always worth more than scrolling late night, isn't it? And dear viewers, that's all I have for you on the show tonight. I will see you tomorrow. Take care and good night.